and committed. He's up here cramping up, but drink more fluids. You got to get, when you come to Riverside, we have to, before praise starts in this place, we have to stretch out. I mean, we do. I'm stretching out. I gotta limber up in the office before I come out here and get stretched out before church starts because, when I go see my doctor for my checkups and everything, he said, "Did you exercise any this month?" And I think back, well, yes, I did. Every Sunday when I come to Riverside, we exercise. And but man, I tell you, how many of you appreciate being in a church that loves to worship God? Just gets there. You can sing, you can dance, you can praise. Man, I love that. I love that. This church has always had, historically speaking, has always been a very worshipful ministry, very worshipful church. And I'm grateful to that tradition has carried on here and that we're still very much a worshipful church. I'm going to continue the third part of it's a series that I'm doing, but it's not, each one doesn't build on the last one. It's the topic is the same, but the characters in the scriptures that I use are different, and the stories are a little different. The scenarios are a little different, and so they don't necessarily build one on another, so you should be able to follow along with us. But I've been talking the last several weeks on the topic called fatal failure. And we've all experienced failures in our life at one time or another. And sometimes not all failure has to be fatal. There's only some failures that become fatal. And we've been looking at different characters in the Bible that showed where they were used of God mightily, but they had some type of failure in their life and how they were able to bounce back from that particular failure. We looked at the life of David. We looked at the life of Elijah. And now we're going to look at, in the New Testament, someone that I don't know that I've ever preached from this particular story. I don't even think I've ever preached about. I don't remember ever talking about, because there's not a whole lot to say on the character himself, but he was a big contributor to our New Testament. I want to talk to you today about John Mark and how in this first missionary journey that he ever went on with Paul and Barnabas, how he bailed out on them. He deserted them in the middle of them. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Let me read a verse of scripture to you. I'm going to read it out of the New King James Version, and I'm going to read it out of the Passion Translation just because I liked how it was worded there. And it's out of the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 16. I don't know what it is about this verse, Big Mac, but when I read this, man, I get excited. I get real excited about this. I feel like it applies to me somehow. For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity. Just take the second part of that and put it away. And just the first part of it is becoming one of my favorites. For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again. Here's how the Passion Translation says it. It says, for the lovers of God may suffer adversity and stumble 7 times, but they will continue to rise over and over again. Is there anybody in the room with me today that just somehow resonates with you? You faced adversity, you faced trouble, you may have stumbled a time or two. Maybe you stumbled 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Maybe you're like me, you stumble 7 times. But how many of you just keep getting back up again? Let me tell you when failure becomes fatal. It becomes fatal when you stop getting back up. If failure's never fatal if you're stumbling, it's only fatal when you don't get back up from the failure that you found yourself in. When the adversity comes and it knocks you down and it knocks you back, and we've been there. Well, I could go around the room and all of us have a testimony, I'm sure, about how we've been through a struggle, how we've been through some turmoil, how we've been through some storms in our lives, and how there have been times in the last 2 years alone that I thought, this is it, this one's about to take me out for good. And then you come across a verse of scripture and you read about some characters in the Bible where they've all dealt with failure as well, but they've all bounced back. They all made a comeback. And one of the things that I had to learn, and one of the things that I have to do for myself is, remember that story in the Bible where David came back to Ziklag and he lost everything because the Philistines came, or it wasn't the Philistines, I think it was the Amorites who came and took everything away when he was out fighting the Philistines, took away everything he owned, took off his fighting men, took away their wives, their children, burned their houses down, took it all away, and they wanted to stone him. His own men wanted to destroy him. And then he got into this place where he couldn't find encouragement anywhere. And then the Bible says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. How many of you ever had to just do that? You had to be your own encourager. You had to encourage yourself in the Lord. I love it when other people do it, when other people encourage me. But there have been some times in the last 2 years, Chuck, that I've had to encourage myself in the Lord. And you may have to do that from time to time. You may have to say, self, you're not going to go out that easy. You're not going out that simple. You're not going to just lay down and die today. And you got to encourage yourself in the Lord. You may fall 7 times, but you got to keep getting up again. Do me a favor, just nudge the person next to you. We won't hit them just yet. We'll just elbow them. Nudge them and say, you got to get back up. You got to get back up. You can't continue to stay down. Now, I've been pastoring this church for, probably 17 years. It'll be 18 years in September. So for 17 years, I've been pastoring this church. And I've learned a lot along the way. I wish I could stand here and tell you that I've done everything just right and just perfect. Every decision I ever made has been the exact right decision. I wish I could tell you that's the case, but it's not. But here's some things that I learned along the way. Pastoring for 17 years and leading people and particular hiring staff and raising up other leaders, there's certain qualities and characteristics that I look for. There's certain characteristics and qualities that I look for when I'm hiring somebody. There's qualities and characteristics I look for when I'm wanting to move or promote someone into a leadership position within the ministry here. And sometimes I get criticized for it. I used to get flack for it because it never went to what they would consider, what others might consider the most qualified candidate. Qualified in that they had the skill sets to pull it off, or they had the education to fulfill the obligation or the role that we were looking for them to fill. While I consider that extremely important and vital, that's not the overarching characteristic that I look for when I'm either wanting to raise up a leader or hire someone, or I'll even make it more personal, or people that I want to run with, people that I try to surround myself with, people that I need elbow to elbow and shoulder to shoulder with me. There's certain characteristics and qualities that I look for. Those of you that own your own businesses and maybe you don't own the business, but you're in charge of hiring people, there's qualities and characteristics that we look for in the corporate world. You look for people who have integrity, people who are honest, people who are great at communicating, people that are respectful, people that are trusting, people that you feel like are able to delegate responsibilities to others. That's kind of a big thing for me. And I also look for people that I think have the ability to develop other leaders. And while those are all great and noble and they're very important, that's not there's one prerequisite that I look at that I have to see it in these people if I want them to come up alongside me, to run with me, to join with me, or to hire or to make a leader. And that one requirement that I have is they must have a limp. You got a limp. There's people that limp. Here's what I know. They've been through some stuff. Anybody that I've ever met that had a limp. Now, you don't have to necessarily have a physical limp, but if you do, that'd be all right too. Mike's got him a cane now. He's got him a limp. He's hoping to get... George, really? I'm trying to preach up in here, and you got to go there with that. I'm not going to repeat what George said because y'all have a lot of respect for George, so I won't say what he said, But I look for people, Sam, that have been through some stuff, people that have a story where they've dealt with some adversity, where they've dealt with some trouble, but they ended up getting through it. They ended up surviving it. I love talking to people that are survivors of things. I love talking to people that have gotten through some things. And for some reason, I'm just drawn to those people. And those are the people that I want to spend time with. I want to spend time with people that have gone through some stuff and have come out on the other side. There's been enough stories about enough people who have gone through some stuff, and you don't hear about them anymore. They don't seem to make it. And all of us go through storms at one time or another. All of us go through troubles at one time or another. All of us make mistakes at one time or another. I don't even hold those against people, people. God has graced me with the ability to have a truckload of grace for one another and to have a truckload of grace for people. And people look at me sometimes and scratch their head and said, how in the world can you have that much grace for those people or for that person after what they said about you or after how they treated you or after what they did to you or after whatever? And I'm just of the opinion that if you sow to the wind, you'll reap the whirlwind. If you sow in grace, you'll reap in grace. If you sow in judgment, you'll reap in judgment. And whatever measurement of judgment you use to judge somebody, that same measurement will be used to judge you. And therefore, I just prefer to use grace and give grace to as many people as I can. I just choose to give grace, and I choose to extend that because everybody's got a story. Everybody's been through some stuff. Everybody's been through some struggles. Everybody's made some mistakes in their lives. And I just try not to hold that against anybody because I know myself, I've made some mistakes. I haven't done everything just right. I haven't made every decision concerning this church just perfect and just right. There are things that I thought we ought to try to do and we would do, and it's like, well, that didn't work out so well. And there are leaders that we would position and put in leadership that we thought would do an excellent job, only to find out, well, maybe they weren't quite cut out for that role. And so I haven't always done everything just perfect and everything just right, and I have made mistakes. The thing that I try not to do, however, is just stay in the place where I sing myself a pity party, where I give myself a pity party, and I wallow and stay in that place where and beat myself up over the mistakes that I've made or the failures that I feel like I've had. I can never just stay there and go over them. It becomes like a really bad country song. The dog died, the wife left, I wrecked the car, the truck was repossessed, whatever. It's just a really bad country song. And so, but I know too many people that they just kind of stay there. And in the last 2 years, I've heard myself say things that I should be past this by now. I should have graduated from that school already. I should have moved on from that by now. But I keep finding myself going back. And sometimes you just got to say enough is enough. Did you nudge your neighbor yet? Nudge the other neighbor and just tell them enough is enough. Sometimes you just got to say enough is enough, and you got to get to the place where you're just like, I am so sick and tired of dealing with this stuff, rehearsing the same story, rehearsing the failure, rehearsing the disappointment, rehearsing it, and sometimes you just got to say enough is enough. Here's what I've learned in the last 17 years of pastoring this church. The greatest lessons that I ever learned in life never came from me doing it right. It always came when I did it incorrectly, when I did it wrong. Wave your hand at me if you know what I'm talking about so I don't feel like I'm all alone. Good. I love it. Somebody in the back waving 2 hands. That's me. I've learned that failing can be our greatest instructor. And failure only becomes fatal when we refuse to learn and develop from those mistakes. Some of the most successful people that we celebrate in our culture have been some of the biggest failures. How many of you heard of Sir James Dyson? This guy evidently invented a vacuum cleaner business that grosses $4.5 billion. But it took 5,126 failed prototypes for him to find the right combination. How about Steven Spielberg? Oh, yeah, that's right. We had the Oscars this past weekend. Wasn't that great? I was waiting for somebody to do that. I should have known. Steven Spielberg, his cinematic output has grossed more than $9 billion and has brought him 3 Academy Awards. But the master of the blockbuster was rejected twice by the University of Southern California School of Cinematic Arts. Aside from that, this director also struggled with dyslexia, which made it harder for him to cope with school. Some of you probably know about Thomas Edison. I love his attitude. He had a very positive attitude. He invented the light bulb, and I think his quote was something like, I didn't fail 10. It took him 10,000 attempts before he got it right, somewhere around 10,000 attempts before he got the light bulb right. And he said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I successfully discovered 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb. And I thought that was really good. And then Tina didn't know this. She didn't know what I was going to talk about today. But when we were coming to church, I was driving through the town, and I caught every single red light. Has that ever happened to anybody? Like, I knew the hand of God was against me on today, because every red light I caught, and this was really frustrating, Jeremy. It wasn't that when I got there it was red. It was already red, and as I just get up to stop, it turned green. I don't know why it just chapped me, but it didn't. It happened several times. We get to the last light, and it did the same thing. And of course, I was like, do you realize, hon, that we caught every single red light, and just as I get to a complete stop, that thing turns green and we got to take off? That is so annoying. And Tina, without skipping a beat, she just looks over and she goes, well, at least we didn't have to wait at him too long, did we? To which I said, thank you, Sister Joel Osteen, for your positivity and your encouragement, and that's just really great. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you for being sunshine and lollipops today. It's like, can I just have one day where I can sulk? And no, I'm just kidding. Now, I know some of you are going to like this next little story. This is about a man named Walt Disney. Anybody ever hear of? It's a cult down in Florida that a lot of people at our church are members of. It said that a former newspaper editor told Walt Disney, I had no idea this was it, but they told him that he lacked imagination and that he had no good ideas. Yeah. How many of you, I would go old school now. I'm going to hit some of my seniors in here. Anybody ever hear this man? He's a singer, Elvis Presley. Anybody know of Elvis Presley? And the young ones know who Elvis Presley is. If you're young, do you know who Elvis Presley is? Wave at me if you do. Y'all know Elvis Presley. You have great parents. Your parents are awesome. Great parents. Colin and Nikki, your daughter did not raise her hand. Bad parents. I'm kidding. Elvis Presley was told when he sang at the Grand Ole Opry, you're not going anywhere, son. You got to go back to driving your truck. And then they fired him from the Grand Ole Opry. But then you know the rest of the story with Elvis Presley. Albert Einstein, his name is synonymous with intelligence, yet it wasn't always that way for Albert Einstein as a child. He didn't start speaking until he was 4. He didn't start reading until he was 7, and he was thought to be mentally handicapped. If he had given up and never persevered, never got up and tried, we would have never had all the important theories that we know today. Another one, kind of a local gal, Oprah Winfrey. She's a billionaire, has her own TV show. You probably heard about her. She gives away cars from time to time. I don't know that I knew this, but she was fired from her very first anchor position here in the city of Baltimore. You guys knew that. I wasn't aware of that. And then lastly, this is a familiar story here. Those of you that are into sports at all know the story of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, who played for the Chicago Bulls, has 6 championships, 5 MVPs, the greatest basketball player ever. Thank you, the greatest ever. I know people try to argue about these ones. No, he's the greatest one ever. This is what he said. He said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games, and on 26 occasions, I was entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Fatal only becomes failure when you refuse to get up from the failure that you've endured, from the trouble that you've endured, from the adversity that you have endured. There's a man named John Mark in the Bible. We call him John Mark. You know him as Mark, though. He wrote the book of Mark. In case those of you that are a little slow, he wrote the book of Mark. Incidentally, now you can argue with Mike about this. He says Matthew. I think it's Mark. The oldest gospel written in the New Testament was Mark. Unless you talk to Mike, it's Matthew. Whatever. The point is, he contributed to the Old Testament by writing the book of Mark. Mark didn't have a great start, though, in ministry. He didn't start out great. In fact, when Mark started out in ministry, you'll find his story in the book of Acts. They mention John Mark in the book of Acts. I think it's around chapter 12 or chapter 13. And he was on a missionary journey with the Apostle Paul and a man named Barnabas, which is the encourager. And Barnabas is the encourager. That's what his name means, and that's what he did. John Mark happened to be his cousin, and Mark, who was very young at the time, went on a missionary journey with Paul and with Barnabas. And as they went through preaching and teaching and planting churches, they got to a place where they finished, and they were getting ready to make a U-turn and go back through the places where they planted churches and revisit them to see how everyone was doing and to encourage them along the way. And when they were doing, or no, I'm sorry, when they got ready to do that, John Mark had already left, and Barnabas said, let's go back and revisit, but let's take John Mark with us. And Paul said, no, we're not taking him with us, because the first missionary journey he went on with us, he quit on us halfway through. And you can find his story in Acts chapter 13. I think it starts somewhere around the 4th verse, 4 through 12. And this is what you'll read. We never really understood, or nobody really knows exactly why Mark left them in the middle of their missionary journey. But what you can gather when you read those passages of scripture there, you'll read that they preached all through this city called Cyprus. They went through Cyprus and they were preaching, and they only got one person, a governor, to convert. So they did all this preaching, Mom, and only got one convert. And there was a lot of demonic opposition. There was a sorcerer there who I guess tried to stall them out, or tried to mess them up with his dark magic or whatever it was. He was a sorcerer. And so they were met with demonic opposition, and they only found one convert when they went preaching through Cyprus. And my guess is, more than likely, John Mark, being young, being immature, not having a whole lot of moxie, thought, you know what, I'm done, I'm tapping out, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going back home. And he went back home. And so when he went back home, and then they went back through to visit all these cities again and all these places where they planted churches again, Barnabas says, let's take him with us, and let's call him up and take him with us. Let's get him and go with us again. And that's when Paul said, absolutely not, we're not taking him. And the division was so sharp between Paul and Barnabas, this dynamic missionary team that was able to plant churches and win a lot of people to the Lord, ended up having to split because of it. They got so upset and so angry with one another that they ended up splitting, and Barnabas took his cousin John Mark, and they went one way, and Paul took Silas, and they went another way, and they were preaching the gospel in their different directions. And as I thought about that, and I thought about the fatal failure, I thought about how, there are times in our lives where, things get tough for us. Things can get difficult for us. Serving God can be a challenge at times. If there's anybody that's ever told you that serving God is all sunshine and rainbows, just look them in the eye and tell them, I don't think you're telling me the truth. It's not. It can be tough. It can be tough. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, Dwayne, but I know that all the years that here's what I'll tell you. I will say this. It's worth every day. It's worth every moment, but it's not always easy. I hate it when people say, Christianity's for weak-minded people, or people that need a crutch. They think it's for weak people. And I'm like, it's easy for you to say, because you've never tried to walk with Jesus. You've never tried to walk with him. So you can criticize and say, well, that's for the weak-minded, or that's for those that are weak. And I'm here to tell you, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea. The walking with Jesus, it requires some moxie. It requires some guts. It requires some people that have got some intestinal fortitude. It requires some people that have a strong backbone to walk with the Jesus that I walk with. Walking with him is not that simple, and it's not that easy. Can I get somebody to help me in here? It's not. Jesus didn't even make it sound easy. He didn't even make it sound inviting. He said, pick up a cross and follow me. Pick up a cross. Yeah. In other words, kill yourself every day. Kill your flesh every day. Hate your mother, your father, your kids, your wife, your husband. Hate yourself and follow me. Nothing about following Jesus is all that inviting and all that easy. And if you were to look at Jesus and what he taught and what he preached and how he did it, he almost like he discouraged people from following him. And when they would follow him, he would leave them to try to get away from them. I think, Rudy, what we've done so many times is we try to make it a gravy train with biscuit wheels to get people to follow Jesus and tell them everything's going to be such a way, and it's going to be good if you do this and do that, and you're going to be all right. And the truth of the matter is, getting saved is easy. You just believe that he is king. You believe that he is king, you're in the kingdom. But those who endure to the end, they shall be saved. And we look at this young John Mark who lacked some endurance. Adversity hit. Things weren't coming up roses every day. Preach for a long time, only get one convert, and dealing with a bunch of hardships and demonic opposition, and he's ready to cash in the chips, throw in the towel, and I'm going back home. Now, before we point the finger at him and get super critical at him, let's not forget back 2 years ago when COVID hit. Some of us forgot who Jesus was. I'm glad you're here now, but let's be real. And there's a lot of people that aren't. There's still a lot of people that aren't here. There's still a lot of people that aren't in churches anymore because when the going got tough, they got going. And it's wild to me that as committed and as dedicated that we feel like we are to God sometimes, the minute we quit going 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we fall out of the routine. How in the world does falling out of a routine keep you from ever wanting to go to church or serve God in any way? If that's it, then maybe your connection to him was super shallow to begin with. And so it's not that I'm beating you up, you got to be at church every single Sunday. And I'm not saying that, but I am saying that it's interesting to me that when trials and tribulations hit and it really gets tough, one of the first things that we default to is this is just too much. I don't want to do this anymore. And then we stop or we quit. Now, I've had moments in my life where I wanted to not quit on Jesus, but maybe I didn't want to do ministry anymore. Maybe I didn't want to preach anymore. Maybe I didn't want to counsel anymore. Maybe I didn't want to pray for another person. Those thoughts are fleeting. Those moments are fleeting. They don't last. They go by real quick. But I understand that may happen from time to time. But then sometimes you got to encourage yourself and you got to stir yourself and you say, you know what? I've come too far and cried too many tears and have been through too much just to stop now, just to quit now, just to give up now. And I'm at a place now where the people that I want to pastor are the people that I call them powerful people. I'm not powerful in that you're strong physically or powerful that you can have great influence over lots of people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about to me, powerful people. Let me just define it for you real quick. Are people that refuse to say the words, I can't all the time when things aren't going your way. Powerless people will always say, I can't. I can't do that. They're always a victim, always a victim, always a victim. That's not the people I don't want to pastor a bunch of victims. I want to pastor people that, you know what? It stinks. This is terrible. It didn't go the way I thought it should go. It's not working out the way I thought it would work out. But you know what? I'm going to put my boots back on. I'm going to straighten my back up. I'm going to lift my head back up, and I'm going to keep on going. If I put my hand to the plow, I'm not going to turn and look back. I'm going to keep going forward. That's the type of church I want to pastor. Not these weak, emaciated little people that are always victims all the time. Life always happens to you. No, make life happen for a change. Come on. You're a child of God. You're a son or you're a daughter of the Most High. You don't have to be a victim all the time. Come on, he didn't die and hang on a cross and rise again so we can be victims all the time. I'm not saying bad things don't happen to you. Sure they will. But don't give up and quit. Don't give up on Jesus. Don't give up on what God's wanting to accomplish and do in your life because it didn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out. And John Mark over here, maybe it wasn't going exactly the way he wanted it. Now I just quit. But you know how many people quit going to church and quit serving God because somebody hurt their feelings? None of us would be in this building if we quit coming because somebody in the church hurt our feelings. If that's the determining factor, you got to get thicker skin. Need that Chris Rock spirit on you. Take a smack and just keep on going. I was wondering how I was going to work that in. I think I figured it out. And just keep going, keep trucking, keep moving forward. I tell people all the time, if you come to this church, you got to have thick skin. 100%. If you are easily offended, not the church for you. Got news for you. I'm not talking about my preaching either. I could offend you with that. I try not to. I'm just talking about hanging out with people. Just go fellowship with them. And if you can't take it, if you're easily offended, don't come here. Do not come here. You will get your feelings hurt. Look at these people around here. That's blood and tears dripping out of their faces. They're looking for the next victim they can jump onto. They're like, we'll prove every spirit in this house. We'll prove every spirit. And they just look to try to hurt your feelings. There's a bully spirit that comes up in here. How many of you have ever been subjected to that in this church? Just wave at me. You know. Yes. Jeremy, I don't know. You've been baptized in that spirit several different times, so I don't want to hear from you. You're not a victim. That dude's hardcore. I'm the one who seems to receive the most abuse for some reason. I don't know why. I don't get it. No, I ain't crying about it. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little. And that's just from my kids and my wife. And then so... But it's amazing to me how the culture we live in is easily offended. Are so sensitive and so delicate. When do we become so sensitive and so delicate? There used to be an old saying back when I was growing up. The men come from an era of wooden ships and iron men. Now it's the other way around. Iron ships and wooden men. Always offended, always getting hurt, getting their feelings hurt, getting trampled on. I look around the room right now, I see there's some people that should be here, they're not here. And if I were to call them out, then here's the other thing. Nobody ever tell you, well, I don't come there anymore because I got my feelings hurt. Nobody's ever going to tell you that. It's always God spoke to me and told me that I need, right, you got your feelings hurt. Just be honest. I know these people can be mean. These sheep bite up in here. Just toughen up, man. Toughen up. We're just getting you ready, man. We're just getting you ready. That's all we're doing, Colin. We're just getting everybody ready, right? We just got to get you toughened up. My goodness, toughen up a little bit. You wouldn't have been able to run with Jesus. Jesus, he said hard things. Eat my flesh, drink my blood. Word. Right? Like, that sounds great. Thank you. Cannibalism? Yeah, we'll take that. It's not what he meant, but I mean, he said some hard things. And it's like, good grief, you say the one thing a little off, one little thing, boy, people get their feelings hurt, and we're out of here. You didn't shake hands, didn't use them in the ministry, you didn't get to sing. I didn't sing my special today. I didn't say hi, you didn't say hi to me, I didn't say hi to you, I'm out of here. You didn't vote for the candidate I voted for, we're out of here. Right? Silly stuff. John Mark got his feelings hurt, or things got going a little difficult. Things got a little stressful. Things got tough. There are people that used to attend here that would come here. As long as the church was packed out, they wanted to be a part of the church. But when COVID hit, we shut down and reopened back up, and you didn't see a lot of those people come back. They're like, deuces, we're out. Like, what happened? You only coming to be seen, coming for the crowds? Oh, everybody wanted to come, and it was going really well. You know what I love about all you guys? You guys you're my kind of people. At least I think I got into this place. Don't tell anybody. This is our secret. Don't tell us all. But we got into this. I think I got into this place where I was just going to figure out who really had it and who didn't. Like who was for me and who wasn't. Who was going to really stick it out. And I was just on purpose. Just dress a certain kind of way. Say words that Pentecostal people wouldn't necessarily use in the pulpit. It's like I was baptized in the ability to shrink a church. I said, well, I didn't grow a church. I did that, right? We did that. We had 4 services, packed the place out. We could grow it. But can you shrink it? Yeah, you can't. You can't. Get out of here. I'm going to stop. I'm going over here. And so it's like, and I wasn't like trying to be mean about it. I wasn't trying to be hateful about it. I really wasn't. I don't know if I was even, Mom, I don't even think I was like making a real effort to do it. But when I noticed it, it was like I get to looking around. I go, well, Chuck and Retta's still here. And they started out with me in the kitchen, and they're still here. And I look around, Mary's still here. Christy's still here. They're all still, Mike's still here. Rose and Marvin still here. Colin, they're all, and I look at that and go, these are my kind of people. Because you know what? These people, they can take a punch. They got a limp. They've been through some stuff. And I don't mind running with people that have a limp, that have wrestled with God and came out with a dislocated. Big Mac's still here. Oh, he went on a sabbatical, but he's still here. Facts. Thank you. Welcome back, prodigal. I'm totally messing. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you. But listen, still here. And I look at Mac and I go, this dude can take a punch. People say, well, why are you one with Mac? Why do you hang out with Mac? Why do you like him so much? Dude can take a punch. Dude's got a limp. Dude's been through some stuff and he didn't quit. Didn't quit, Sean, just kept going. Not everything works out the way we want it to, does it, babe? But we get up, don't we? And we keep trucking and we keep going and we keep moving. One of the things that Tina and I tell Sarah all the time, just keep getting out of bed, baby. Just get out of bed every day. Just keep getting up, keep getting up, keep getting up. I know it sucks. I know it's tough. I know it's hard. Just keep getting up. And we don't have to go and drag her out of the bed. She just gets up. And that's what you got to do. You just got to keep getting up. Learn to take a punch. Have a limp if you have to. A limp is not a sign of weakness. A limp is not a sign that you've been defeated. It's actually the opposite of that. It's the fact that you're victorious and that you've won. The scars that you bear in your body aren't signs of weakness. It's signs that you took some abuse, but you're still alive. You're still surviving, and you're still going forward. And everything doesn't always go our way, does it? Everything doesn't always happen the way we want it to. Not the way we dream about it, not the way we plan it out. But you know what? We keep going, don't we? I'm just encouraging myself in the Lord. You just got to keep going. What ends up happening is a couple things end up happening. Somewhere along the line, Paul gets older, and he's in prison. And he writes a letter to, I think it's the church at Colossia. And he says, when you come to visit me, come and bring John Mark with you. He's useful to me. Wait, what? You didn't want him a while back, and now you want him? Here's what I think happened. I think in those several years between the time he didn't want him to the time he said, bring him, he's useful to me, I think John Mark might have grown up some. I knew he grew up because he wrote the book of Mark. The oldest book in the oldest gospel written. I can say that because I had the microphone this week. Mike will change that next week when he gets it, or a week after, whenever he gets it. He goes, no, it's Matthew. Anyway, but he contributed to the Gospels. Paul had to soften up. He had to soften his heart and exercise some grace and use some grace. Say, you know what? This boy didn't act the way I wanted him to. He left us. He bailed on us. But now he's saying, but now you're useful to me. There have been some people that have come. There have been people that have gone. My prayer is that the grace that I have for all of you, I'll have for all of them. The grace that I exercise, that I want people to exercise towards me, I want to be able to exercise that towards them. Because everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a tale to tell. Everybody's been through some stuff. And I think sometimes it's good for our hearts to get a little soft and allow God to make us pliable in our hearts. It's so easy to hang on to grudges. It's so easy to hang on to gripes. It's so easy to hang on to, you did me wrong. Paul could have held on to that concerning John Mark. John Mark left us when we needed him. We were doing the work of the Lord, and he bailed out on us, and he didn't finish with us, and he didn't endure, and he went back to mama where he wanted to be. And now you're talking about bringing him back? No, we don't want him. And then years later, bring him. He's useful to me. Sometimes you just got to soften your heart. What kind of grudges you hanging on to? What are you hanging on to where people have hurt you? I'm preaching to myself right now, I'll be honest with you. I don't even want to hear this part of the sermon. But what do we hang on to that zaps us of our life, that zaps us of our abilities to accomplish what God wants to accomplish in us? I know some people got to grow up, but sometimes we got to soften up. Say, for all you that are visiting, all guests that are maybe considering, you know what, I think I can come to this church. I'm trying to soften them up. I hope it works, but it might not. And you got to let your heart just get a little softened up. And say, you know what, I'm not going to hold that against them. I'm not going to punish them for that anymore. They didn't do what I wanted them to, but I'm not going to punish them. And because of that, you find out that God was able to use Mark in a very mighty way, and Mark contributes to our church today every time we open up the book of Mark and read it. Not only that, but he got really close to Peter and, helped Peter write some of his letters. Did you know that one? Mike did, but he helped Peter write some of his letters. And so here's the point. Jeremiah, you can come back and help me, baby, if you're the one playing for me. The point is, John Mark made a mistake when he was young. He failed in his first missionary journey with Paul and Barnabas. But he didn't stop. He didn't quit with the ministry. He didn't quit with Jesus. We don't know what happened to him after he left and went back home, but we do find out later on in Paul's life that he must have redeemed himself somehow. And he made a comeback because Paul says, he's useful to me. I need him. Paul's in prison in Rome, waiting to get his head chopped off, and he's bring that one that he's useful to me. I can use him right now. I can use him right now. And I wonder how many people we've written off in our lives, that we've discounted and written off in our lives, that there might come a time where we could use them right now. I wonder who God's going to bring back into my life that I've written off that I could use when I'm at a low point. You ever thought about that? Who is God going to use? I hit a low point a few months ago. Devastating. It was a bad time. It was a bad place. And people that I've written off show back up. John Mark. Now God's using Big Mac to be an encouragement to me, and I encourage him. Wrote him off because he left. That was stupid. I don't know why we did this stuff. Thank God he got a hold of my heart and changed my thinking on that. I used to get so upset when people would leave our church. I took it so personal all the time. I didn't think of them as leaving the church. I saw them as leaving me personally. After all I did for you, after pouring into you and investing in you, you just walk away. That's dumb. They're not mine anyway. They're God's people. I just get to be a steward, and if I get to have a relationship with them and run with them, amen. Man, I'm looking around this room right now. I don't know everybody in here. I know most of you. And most of you have been through some stuff, haven't you? You've seen some things. You weathered some storms. You've dealt with adversity in your life. You've dealt with sickness, and you've dealt with death, and you've dealt with divorce, and you've dealt with bankruptcies, and you've dealt with foreclosures, and you've dealt with repossessions, and you've dealt with addictions, and you've dealt with it. And it hasn't always been pretty. It hasn't always been good. It hasn't always been right, but you're still here. And you're still breathing air, and you're still worshiping God. Maybe you don't worship like everybody else, but you're still worshiping. Maybe you don't pray like everybody else, but you're still praying. Maybe you don't know Jesus like somebody else knows Jesus in here, but at least you know him. Amen? And you're still getting by, and you're still getting on. And I look around, and I say, you know what? These are my people right here. Not because you do it all right, not because you haven't made mistakes, not because you're perfect. It's because even while that's happening, you still show up. You're still smiling. You might have to fake it, but you're still doing it. You might have a limp, and it might last for a while, but you're a survivor, and you're making it, and you're my kind of people. So if I ever get in trouble, if I'm ever in a foxhole and I need to call on somebody, I'm calling on this church right here. I'm calling on you guys. Because you've had family members that used to attend here with you, and they're not here anymore, but you still are. You have friends of yours that attended here with you, and they're not here, but you still are. There's something on the inside of you that it's called tenacity. That's becoming one of my favorite words recently. You're tenacious. You're like a dog with a bone. I'm not turning loose. I'm not letting go. If I got to cry my way through it, if I got to shout my way through it, if I got to scream my way through it, if I got to come dragging in, I'll come dragging in. But the one thing I'm not going to do is quit. The one thing I'm not going to do is give up. The one thing I'm not going to do is stop. Now, as a church, we've been through some stuff in the last couple years, haven't we? But just take a look around the room. Look around the room right now. It's different than it was a few months ago. I don't know how many's in here, but there's way more people. This is probably the most I've ever seen in this building in 2 years. Facts. Look around, George. Look around, Mike. Am I right? It's the most people I've seen in here in 2 years. It's awesome. Now, I'm not discounting those watching by the stream either. I know you watch in, you log in faithfully. You log in faithfully and you watch. I know when Robert Nichols not here, I know he's watching faithfully. We got some faithful people that watch on the stream as well. Dan and Lisa Beth are faithful to watch on the stream when they're not able to be here, so I don't discount them. But those are my kind of people. My kind of people. It gets tough, make mistakes, they just keep coming back. So here's what I want you to do. I want everybody to stand to your feet if you're able to. Stand up on your feet. And I want you just to spin around and look at all the people that's standing around in this building with you. Just look at them. And I want you to know we all have something in common. We've all been through some battles. We all been through some adversity, and we all been through some storms. But like the ones you're looking around the room at, they are as tenacious as you are. They are tenacious as well. And I'm just thinking and I'm just dreaming, Big Mac, what's going to happen? What's going to happen and when we start adding others that are as tenacious as us, that have the stickability that we have, that have the guts that we have? What kind of impact and what kind of difference can we make in this county? Seriously. Can we change the spiritual landscape of this area? Can we finally get to the place where we change it, where we see a huge difference because a group of people that refused to give up and refused to quit kept gathering together, quit coming together, kept praying together, kept worshiping together? What kind of impact can we make? What kind of changes can we make? What kind of miracles are we about to see? What kind of miracles are we about to see in this place? Why? Because you guys didn't give up and you didn't quit. Failure is only fatal when the adversity takes you out permanently and you refuse to get up and dust yourself off. Now, I know sometimes it's hard to dust yourself off. Sometimes it's hard to pick yourself up. Sometimes we need a little help. I got a song on my playlist. It's not a Christian song, but it says, I get by with a little help from my friends. I don't know who sings it, but it's a cool jam. And you might be in this room today and you might be, you know what, I'm dealing with some adversity. I'm dealing with some trouble. And I've tried to pick myself up. I've tried to shake myself. I've tried to encourage myself, but I'm just so beat down and I'm so worn out. I just don't think I can do it, and I need somebody to help me. If that's you today, would you just make your way to this altar? I'm going to come and stand with you. And I'll link with you. I'll link my arms with you, and I will stand with you. And when you're feeling weak, you can lean. Remember old Forrest Gump, old Bubba? You lean back on me, and I'll lean back on you, and we'll lean back on each other. And sometimes we need that. Come on, I wish I had some brothers to come up here and stand with my brother right here. Don't let somebody come up here and stand by themselves. There's some brothers over here. Jeremy, I stand with you, my friend. I know you've been through some stuff. You've seen a lot with the whole COVID crisis, especially in your line of work. You get tired, you get worn out, you get beat down. Come on, somebody stand with my sister over here. Stand with them. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else? You just feel tired and wore out. I mean, you've been through some stuff. We all been there. I get it. I might not know exactly what you're dealing with, and I might not be able to sympathize with everything that you're feeling. And I'm not trying to be dismissive in any way. Make it seem like yours is minimal compared to somebody else's. Thank you for standing with my sister. Thank you. Yeah. Is there anybody else? You feel weak. You just feel tired. You feel worn out. You just feel like giving up. You just feel like quitting. I'm not going to do it. You need help. You need somebody to stand beside you. We'll do it. We'll do it. Hey. Let me tell you something about the people that are standing around here and the people that I go to church with. Yeah, they might have some thick skin. They might say some sharp things from time to time. They may give you a hard time from time to time, but at the end of the day, these are the people you want in your corner when crap hits the fan. These are the people you want. I guarantee it. Why? Because I've been through some garbage. I've been through some junk. I've been through some criticisms and ridicules, and I've had the enemy come against me 6 ways to Sunday and twice on Sundays. I've dealt with it. And when I turn around and I see this group of people, this is the people I need. This is the people I want. These are the people that they don't mind rolling their sleeves up. These are the type of people say, hey, if we got to go, what? You got to go take somebody out. We got to bury bodies. I'll go with you. And ask no questions. That's the kind of people you want around you. Spiritual giants. Maybe they don't quote scripture like somebody else, but there's something about that look in their eye. There's something about that limp that they have. Says they've been through some stuff and they survived. I love being a part of a church that's full of people that have survived. You know why I think you worship the way you do? Because you've been through stuff too. And if people understood your story, they'd understand why you jump up and down like you do in worship, and why you come every Sunday and cry your eyes out, and why you got your hands lifted up. It's not that you're pretending to try to be super spiritual. It's that you have really something to be thankful for and grateful for, because you know you shouldn't be here in your own right mind. You shouldn't be standing here right now in your right mind. But you're only here because of God's grace, God's mercy, and God's love. And you're only here because He extended mercy to you. That's the only reason you're here. And that's why you worship the way you do. People say, why do you worship so long at church? Can't you just do like everybody else and sing for 10 minutes? I guess maybe I could, but it takes me an hour to tell Him how thankful I am for what He did for me this past week. It actually takes longer to be grateful that we cut it off when we do. If it was up to me, we'd be here 2 or 3 hours singing. Jeremiah said, please, for the love of God, no. Just drink more fluid, son. But that's why we do what we do. That's why we act the way we act. That's why we worship the way we worship, with passion and with zeal. And we just don't do it. We don't worship that way only, but we pray that way. Rudy said, my shoulder hurts, and we knocked him on the ground. Here's Jesus. Same type of zeal, same type of passion. Right? That's the kind of people you want to be connected to. The ones that you can't, that just, when you feel like giving up, they're fine, but they got you in a headlock saying, no, you're going with us. You're going with us. You're going with us. And I just look around and I say, I'm so grateful. Alex, I'm so grateful, baby. Don't give up, sweetheart. Don't give up. You come too far, honey. You've cried too many tears. You've been through too much. You're not going to stop now. You can't quit now. Jeremy, you can't quit now. Big Mac, you're not quitting now. You can't quit. You can't quit. You can't quit. Not now, baby. Not now. I know I just met you. You're new. You're friends with the Bunties. You'll fit in here perfect. If you be friends with Jeremy, you fit in here. I guarantee it. We have to watch out for you. What's her name? Jen? Another Jen? I just have to ask because I know you're friends with this Jen. I just have to ask. Do you eat meat? Are you a meat eater? Jen, don't mess. See, I told you. I knew Jen would fit in. I love it. Don't quit, Jen. Don't quit. Don't quit. Sam, don't quit, man. Don't do it. Colin, stick it out. Sean, we got this, man. We got this. We got this. You guys look good. You sound good. You look good and sound good. Pray for these. I'm going to dismiss you guys. Those watching by the stream, thank you for watching and being a part. I'm just going to pray with the people here at this altar and greet and fellowship with them and visit with them. You're welcome to fellowship and greet one another and talk to one another and hang out with one another if you want to, but I just dismiss you. You can go and have a great, wonderful day. It looks like the sun is shining out there. I've just blessed you to go and have a good day. Talk to somebody, meet somebody, greet somebody. Joy, it's good to see you, baby. We've come a long way, sweetheart. Come a long way. I saw TJ in the back somewhere. She didn't want me to call her out, but I call her out. There's BP in here. Brian Pearson, baby, we come too far, son. We come too far. Nancy Sheets, we come too far, honey. Can't quit. Need each other. Need each other. I love you guys. I bless you. I dismiss you in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. I'm going to visit with some folks here and pray with them.